The council chamber had barely begun to recover from Elias Varn's bold declaration when chaos erupted. Voices clashed, some shrill, some deep, and all carried a sense of urgency that filled every corner of the enormous hall. Delegates argued over protocol, strategy, and morality, yet beneath the noise, one fact was undeniable. Humans had forced a new reality upon the Galactic Council. Elias remained at the center, calm and composed, watching the frenzy with quiet patience. While the chamber seemed like a storm of confusion, he could see the patterns beneath it, alliances shifting, hidden agendas revealing themselves, and weaknesses in both Zerthian defenses and the Council's hesitation. Humans had a gift for turning chaos into opportunity. A crystalline delegate with glittering facets spoke first, its voice sharp and precise. "This is unprecedented." A young species barely entering interstellar politics speaks of war without consulting the Council fully. "This is reckless." Another voice rose, deep and mechanical, belonging to a species that resembled living constructs. Reckless or not, humans may be the only ones capable of decisive action. We have debated endlessly, and yet the Zerthians advance. Time is slipping away. Elias listened carefully. The room was split between anger, fear, and admiration. That split worked to his advantage. While older species debated endlessly, humans could move. Humans could act. Humans could unite the few willing delegates quickly and gain momentum before hesitation caused more destruction. Quietly, Elias gestured to his assistant. "Prepare the private holographic link. I need to speak with those already sympathetic." His assistant nodded and activated a discreet communication network. A few minutes later, small groups of delegates from different species responded. Some were minor, some influential. All shared a similar sentiment. Caution had failed. Decisive action was needed. Elias addressed them through the link, voice calm but firm. "We cannot wait for the Council's approval. The Zerthians will continue to strike. We must form a coalition of willing allies and move quickly. Who among you is ready to act?" One delegate, a sleek, silver-scaled being, replied immediately. "We will join you. Our fleets are prepared for rapid deployment. We cannot allow hesitation to cost lives." Another, a semi-transparent aquatic species, added, "Our intelligence reports align with your assessment. Delay is dangerous. We will commit reconnaissance and support units." Elias smiled faintly. This was the advantage humans had learned early. Boldness attracts those ready to act. While the majority hesitated, a small decisive coalition could shift the balance. Meanwhile, the council chamber continued its debate. Many delegates openly challenged humans, some warning that any action without full council approval could destabilize the galaxy. Others whispered quietly to their allies, already reconsidering their positions. Humans had changed the conversation. Now hesitation itself was a liability. A tall, armored representative from a fortified world slammed its appendages on the table. "You dare speak of war as if it were a simple tactic. Do you understand the consequences? Even a small fleet may not contain the Zerthians. Millions of lives are at risk." Elias met its gaze steadily. "We do understand the risk, but inaction carries a certainty of death and destruction. Humans have learned that courage paired with strategy often succeeds where fear alone cannot. We are prepared, we are ready, and we will act. The question is whether you will join us or remain passive as the galaxy falls." Several delegates whispered among themselves. The words carried a weight that could not be ignored. Humans were young, yes, but they had a clarity of purpose that few older species possessed. Their boldness was unsettling because it was grounded in morality, intelligence, and action, not in recklessness. Outside the chamber, in the observation corridors, whispers spread quickly. Observers and minor officials speculated, could humans really lead a coalition? Were they reckless, or were they the first species in decades to truly understand the Zerthian threat? Some whispered with admiration. Others muttered warnings about the potential consequences. Back inside, Elias activated a small holographic map. It displayed the outer rim systems under Zerthian attack, showing vulnerable colonies, trade routes, and potential strategic points. The data was precise, gathered from multiple sources, and highlighted opportunities that larger fleets often overlooked. Humans had a way of seeing solutions that others missed, combining logic, creativity, and adaptability in ways alien species could not. "Look here," Elias said quietly to the allied delegates over the private link. "The Zerthians believe in overwhelming force. They do not expect flexibility or ingenuity. We can exploit that. We can protect colonies, cut supply lines, and force them to retreat without unnecessary losses, but we must move swiftly. Hesitation is our enemy. A consensus quickly formed among the allies. While small, their coalition represented enough strength to begin limited operations. Their fleets were nimble, their tactics unconventional, and their morale high. Humans had a unique way of inspiring loyalty and courage even among species that had never fought together. Meanwhile, chaos in the council chamber reached its peak. Some delegates argued that humans had no right to act independently. Others, more pragmatic, realized that inaction was far more dangerous than any risk posed by a bold species like humanity. The chamber was divided, and that division was exactly what Elias had anticipated. Humans thrived in situations others found paralyzing. A veteran diplomat from a vine-like species approached Elias through the holographic link. "You speak of war as if it is certain victory. Are you not concerned about potential failure?" Elias's response was calm, almost gentle. "Failure is always a possibility, but inaction guarantees loss. Humans have learned that decisive action, guided by intelligence and morality, can change the course of events. We cannot wait for perfection or for consensus. Lives are at stake. That is reason enough to act." As the private coalition finalized its plans, Elias returned attention to the chamber. He knew the council vote was coming, but he did not need their approval to act. Humans had allies ready, fleets prepared, and strategies drawn. The council's hesitation only confirmed his plan. They had underestimated humans' willingness to lead and to take responsibility. The council chair finally called for a vote, but the outcome was unclear. Many delegates abstained, fearing consequences. Others openly opposed humans, calling their approach reckless. Yet a few key species signaled support discreetly. The human-led coalition would act regardless, but the council's division revealed something important. The galaxy had been too slow, too cautious, too unwilling to confront threats decisively. Humans would not repeat that mistake. Elias allowed a small smile. This was the moment humans had been preparing for. Their species had survived countless dangers on their homeworld because of ingenuity, courage, and determination. Now, in the wider galaxy, those same traits gave them influence far beyond what other species expected. As the vote concluded inconclusively, Elias addressed his private coalition. "The council may delay, but we cannot. We have an opportunity to act before the Zerthians strike again. Prepare your fleets, recon teams gather intelligence, combat units review strategies. We will move quickly, and we will show the galaxy what humans and their allies can achieve when fear is set aside and action begins." Outside the chamber, word of the coalition's preparations spread. Observers recorded the movements and decisions, amazed that a human-led effort could form so rapidly. Some species considered joining, while others doubted humanity's abilities. The galaxy had never seen such determination from a species so young, and many could not predict the results. Elias returned to the holographic map, tracing routes and systems with meticulous care. Every detail mattered: supply lines, defensive positions, potential ambush points. Humans had a gift for turning complexity into actionable plans, combining intelligence and intuition in ways the Council's older species could not match. He paused, thinking of the stakes. Millions of lives were at risk. Delay would cost countless colonies and destabilize entire regions. But humans did not hesitate. They acted, they adapted, they endured, and they could inspire others to act as well. As night fell over distant stars, the council chamber remained divided, yet the galaxy itself had already begun to change. Humans had turned chaos into opportunity, hesitation into motivation, and fear into decisive action. Elias knew the next steps would be difficult. The Zerthians were ruthless, and even with allies, humans faced a dangerous path. But he also knew this: humans thrived in challenges that others considered impossible. Courage, adaptability, and morality gave them a unique edge, and when the time came, they would prove to the galaxy why humans were not to be underestimated. The storm of debate continued, but within the chaos, a new order was forming. Humans were no longer passive observers. They were leaders, innovators, and protectors, and the galaxy would soon witness the full measure of what humanity could accomplish. The first light of the distant star glimmered over Earth's orbital command station, casting long reflections across the sleek, metallic surfaces of the human fleet. Captain Elias Varn stood on the bridge of the flagship Resolute, gazing at the holographic map of the Outer Rim. Systems under threat were marked in red, highlighting the territories recently attacked by the ruthless Xerthians. These attacks had left countless colonies in ruins, their citizens terrified and defenseless. The humans did not hesitate. After weeks of preparation, covert communications, and secret alliances, the coalition of willing species was ready to act. Though small compared to the fleets of older civilizations, their strength lay not in sheer numbers but in speed, ingenuity, and courage. Humans excelled where others faltered. They could adapt to any situation, turn chaos into opportunity, and act decisively when others hesitated. Elias moved along the bridge, checking each station. His officers, both human and allied species, worked with calm precision. Holographic displays projected enemy positions, likely supply lines, and weak points in Xerthian defenses. Humans had studied the enemy's patterns carefully. The Xerthians believed in overwhelming force and predictability. Humans would exploit their mistakes. "Captain Varn," said Lieutenant Mara, a human officer specializing in strategy, "all fleets are in position. Recon drones confirmed Xerthian patrols are heavier near the Corvian belt. They're expecting us to hesitate, but we won't." Elias nodded, his expression firm. "Exactly. They rely on fear and assumption. They assume hesitation. They assume caution. But humans act. That is the advantage we have. Send the reconnaissance teams to create small diversions. Combat units prepare for rapid strike." In the council chambers of other species, whispers spread as coalition fleets began moving into position. Some older civilizations watched with surprise. Humans had taken action before the council's full approval, and the results were already beginning to unfold. They had formed alliances quietly, planned strategically, and now executed with confidence. The galaxy had never seen such determination from a species so young. Back in space, the Resolute led the coalition through the Outer Rim. Recon ships darted ahead, small but swift, transmitting information back in real time. Xerthian patrols scanned the sectors, unaware that humans had already anticipated their moves. By the time the enemy detected them, the humans had already adapted, shifting positions, preparing strikes, and predicting counterattacks. Elias activated the tactical display, highlighting the first target, a lightly defended supply station near the Corvian belt. The station was essential for Xerthian operations, and capturing it would disrupt their logistics and weaken their forces in nearby systems. "Prepare boarding teams," Elias instructed. "Use stealth approach. Avoid unnecessary destruction. We need them alive for intelligence. This will show them that humans fight with purpose, not recklessness." The boarding teams, small units of humans and allies, moved with precision. Cloaked ships slipped past Xerthian scanners, deploying teams onto the station silently. Within minutes, they had secured key points and captured data cores that revealed enemy positions and strategies. Elias observed the operation, impressed but focused. The humans' approach combined intelligence, strategy, and adaptability. While the Xerthians relied on brute force, humans relied on thinking several steps ahead. Every move was calculated yet flexible. Every plan was prepared yet adaptable. Meanwhile, the Xerthians reacted with aggression. Their patrols converged on the Corvian sector, expecting to find hesitation or delay. Instead, they encountered humans already in position, ready to engage. Skirmishes erupted in the void, energy beams cutting through the darkness, ships weaving and dodging with agility that shocked the Xerthian commanders. The humans' small fleets were nimble. They struck where the enemy was weak, using unpredictable tactics that the Xerthians could not anticipate. Diversion ships lured the main patrols into traps while strike teams targeted supply routes, communication hubs, and defensive outposts. The enemy's strength became their weakness. Their rigid strategies were no match for human adaptability. Elias watched as reports flowed in from multiple fronts. Colonies that had seemed lost were now secure. Refugees were being evacuated. Supply lines were disrupted. The Xerthians were forced to retreat, their confidence shaken. "Captain," Lieutenant Mara said, pointing to a holographic display, "they're falling back faster than expected. Our diversions worked perfectly. Casualties are minimal, and we've secured critical intelligence." They didn't anticipate a coordinated, multi-pronged approach. Elias allowed a small smile. "Humans adapt. Humans act. That is why we succeed. This is only the beginning. Keep pressing. Force them to make mistakes and we will exploit every one of them. The battle continued for hours, a combination of skirmishes and strategic strikes. Unlike other species, humans did not rely solely on raw power. They used creativity and psychology, predicting enemy movements, anticipating panic, and exploiting fear without becoming reckless. Every victory was a combination of courage, intelligence, and moral purpose. On one front, a group of human pilots executed a daring maneuver. Their ships, smaller but faster than the Zerthian cruisers, circled through an asteroid field. Using the terrain as cover, they struck unexpectedly, disabling communications and targeting critical engines, forcing the enemy to retreat in disarray. Back on the Resolute, Elias monitored the results. "Excellent work," he said. "Humans do not fight like the Zerthians. We fight with intelligence, courage, and purpose. We protect lives while defeating enemies. That is what makes us unique." As the day progressed, the coalition's coordination proved decisive. Allied fleets inspired by human leadership began taking more initiative. A species previously hesitant in the Council now launched a coordinated strike, disrupting Zerthian reinforcements. Another species provided reconnaissance that allowed humans to anticipate enemy moves before they happened. The HFY moment was clear. Human leadership inspired confidence and action in others, transforming uncertainty into a force capable of changing the battlefield. By the end of the first full day of operations, the Zerthians had retreated from key sectors. Several colonies that were thought lost were liberated, supply lines were cut, and enemy morale was shattered. Reports poured in. The humans and their allies had accomplished what the Council had debated for months without taking action. Elias gathered the coalition leaders for a brief council. "We've done well today," he said, projecting calm authority. "But the fight is not over. The Zerthians will regroup. They will adapt. We must stay ahead. Use intelligence to anticipate their moves. Protect the colonies. Minimize losses. And remember, our strength is not just in technology or numbers. It is in courage, in creativity, in moral purpose, and in our ability to act when others hesitate." The Allied leaders nodded. Humans had shown them a new way to fight, not through fear but through strategy, innovation, and decisive action. It was a lesson that would resonate across the galaxy for generations. As night fell over the outer rim, Elias stood on the bridge of the Resolute, looking at the stars. Millions of lives had been saved, and the coalition had proven that boldness and determination could achieve what hesitation and caution could not. He thought of Earth, of the human homeworld that had survived countless challenges through resilience and ingenuity. Those traits had now carried into the wider galaxy. Humans were young, but they were shaping the future in ways older civilizations could scarcely imagine. "Captain Varn," Lieutenant Mara said softly, "the Zerthians are retreating. We've achieved more than anyone expected." Elias nodded. "Yes, but this is just the beginning. We've shown them what humans are capable of, and we've inspired others to act. The galaxy will remember this day, not for the fleets or the technology, but for courage, adaptability, and the willingness to stand when others falter. That is humanity's true strength." The coalition prepared for the next phase of operations, moving systematically to secure additional sectors, protect remaining colonies, and gather intelligence. The Zerthians, though ruthless, were now on the defensive, forced to respond to human strategy rather than dictate the battle. Elias allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction. Humanity had taken the first decisive step, proving that even a young species could change the course of galactic events. Their bold action had united allies, disrupted the enemy, and saved countless lives. It was a clear demonstration of what humans could accomplish when fear was set aside and purpose guided action. As the stars of the outer rim stretched before him, Elias whispered to himself, "This is only the beginning. The galaxy will soon see the true power of humanity, not in numbers but in courage, ingenuity, and determination. And they will remember who acted when the rest hesitated." The human fleet continued its advance, precise, decisive, and unstoppable. The first strike had been a success, but the larger war against the Zerthians was only beginning. Yet one fact was clear. Humans had shown the galaxy that boldness, morality, and adaptability could win where hesitation would fail. and the galaxy would never forget the day humans struck. The battle for the Outer Rim had ended, at least for now. The Zerthians, once confident in their dominance, had retreated, scattered, and demoralized. Reports from the front lines painted a clear picture. Humans and their allies had achieved what the Council had debated for months without action. Colonies had been saved, supply lines secured, and intelligence gathered that would prevent future attacks. Humanity had proven that courage, ingenuity, and decisive action could triumph even against the most ruthless enemies. Captain Elias Varn stood on the bridge of the flagship Resolute, watching the aftermath unfold. The fleet moved efficiently, repairing ships, redistributing supplies, and evacuating refugees from vulnerable systems. Even in the calm after battle, humanity's focus on preparation and care set them apart. Every life mattered, every system counted. Humans fought not only to win, but to protect. "Captain," said Lieutenant Mara, her eyes scanning the holographic map. "All Zerthian forces in the sector are retreating. Intelligence suggests they are regrouping on uncharted systems far beyond the rim. Casualties are lower than expected, and coalition morale is extremely high." Elias nodded. "Excellent. But this is only the beginning. The Zerthians will attempt to strike again. We cannot simply wait for them. We must continue our operations strategically, ensuring that they cannot recover. Humans do not fight once and stop. We adapt, we persist, and we secure victory until the threat is neutralized." The galaxy had begun to take notice. Word of human courage and decisive action spread quickly through communication networks. Observers from other systems reported on the young species that had dared to act where older civilizations hesitated. For the first time, humans were no longer the underestimated newcomers. They were a force to be respected, even feared in their effectiveness. In the council chamber, discussions were tense. Delegates who had opposed human action were now reconsidering their positions. Some feared human boldness, others respected it, and a few realized they had underestimated the young species' combination of morality, intelligence, and bravery. The council chair spoke, its crystalline surface glittering with authority. "Earth has demonstrated an unprecedented level of leadership. Your species has acted decisively, saving countless lives. The Council must now reconsider its approach. Humans have shown us what courage and determination can achieve." Elias remained composed. He knew recognition from the Council was only a part of the journey. The galaxy itself was changing, and humans would continue to lead not for glory, but because they were willing to do what was necessary. A smaller, previously cautious species approached the human delegation. "Captain Varn," said the representative, "your actions have inspired us. Your willingness to act decisively, it is unlike anything we have seen. We wish to join your coalition fully." Elias smiled faintly. "Thank you. The galaxy is stronger when we act together. But remember, courage without strategy is reckless. We act with both, protecting lives while achieving objectives. Together we can ensure that the Zerthians and any other threat cannot dominate the galaxy." Meanwhile, the Zerthians were in disarray. Their retreat had not only cost them territory and resources, but also morale. Fleet commanders, previously confident and ruthless, now doubted their tactics and feared the unpredictability of humanity. Humans had shown that they could think, adapt, and act in ways the Zerthians could not anticipate. On the Resolute, Elias convened a meeting with his officers and allied leaders. "Our first strike was successful," he said, "but the war is not over. We must continue to coordinate, using intelligence, strategy, and our unique strengths. Humans fight differently. We do not rely on fear or intimidation alone. We rely on courage, innovation, and the ability to act decisively when others hesitate. This is our advantage, and it will carry us forward." Allies nodded. They had learned from humans not only tactics, but also a new way of thinking about conflict and leadership. The HFY moment was clear. Humanity's courage, decisiveness, and moral clarity had inspired an entire coalition to act effectively against a dangerous enemy. Days passed, and coalition forces began systematic operations to secure additional sectors. Humans led with careful planning, balancing aggression with protection. Every strike was calculated, every rescue coordinated, and every intelligence report meticulously analyzed. The Zerthians, though still dangerous, could no longer dominate through fear and overwhelming force. Elias watched as reports from the field came in. Colonies once under threat were thriving again. Trade routes were reopened, refugees returned home safely, and most importantly, the galaxy now had proof that a young species could act decisively and morally, achieving what the oldest civilizations could not. In the council chamber, debates shifted from fear of human action to cautious admiration. Some delegates who had previously dismissed humans now sought alliances. Others worried about the implications of a species that could act independently, yet they could not ignore the results. Humanity had redefined expectations of what a species could achieve. Elias took a quiet moment to reflect. He thought of Earth, of the planet that had survived countless challenges through ingenuity, resilience, and courage. Those traits had now carried into the galaxy. Humans had taken responsibility, acted decisively, and inspired others to follow, and the galaxy for the first time recognized the true strength of humanity. "Captain," Mara said softly, "the Council is beginning to acknowledge our success. They're even sending envoys to discuss future collaboration." Elias nodded. "Let them recognize what is happening. Recognition is good, but it is not the goal. The goal is to protect lives, secure systems, and ensure that threats like the Zerthians cannot rise again. Humans act for purpose, not praise." Despite the success, Elias knew the work was far from over. The Zerthians would recover and other challenges would arise. But humanity had proven something critical, that boldness, intelligence, and moral clarity could shape the galaxy's future. Where others hesitated, humans acted. Where others feared, humans persisted. And that combination would ensure that the galaxy never underestimated them again. As fleet communications continued, reports poured in of smaller species inspired by human leadership. They began taking independent action to defend their own systems, using human tactics and strategies. Humanity had not only changed the outcome of a single battle, but had sparked a broader change in the galaxy's approach to threats. Elias allowed himself a moment of pride, though he kept it quiet. Humans had shown the galaxy what was possible. Courage and intelligence could overcome even the most powerful enemies. Adaptability and determination could turn the tide of battle. And most importantly, humans acted not for personal gain, but for the protection of life and the defense of justice. The HFY theme was clear. Humans were small and young, yet capable of inspiring others, leading with moral clarity, and achieving remarkable victories through ingenuity and courage. The galaxy now understood that humanity was not to be underestimated. Weeks later, the Zerthians had been pushed back from multiple sectors. Coalition forces, led by humans, had liberated dozens of colonies and secured key strategic points. The Council, recognizing the success and the unique role humans played, formally acknowledged Earth's leadership in the coalition. During a formal ceremony in the Council chamber, the chair addressed the assembly. "Earth has shown the galaxy that courage, decisiveness, and moral clarity can succeed where hesitation and fear fail. Humanity has acted not for conquest, but for the protection of life. Let this be a lesson to all species. Boldness guided by purpose can change the course of history." Elias accepted the acknowledgement quietly, knowing that true leadership was measured by action and results, not by applause. He looked at the assembled delegates, both allies and former skeptics, and felt a quiet satisfaction. Humanity had acted decisively, inspired cooperation, and redefined what it meant to be a strong species in the galaxy. Later, alone on the bridge of the Resolute, Elias gazed at the stars. The galaxy was vast, full of potential threats, opportunities, and challenges, but humanity had proven its value, its courage, and its ability to act when others could not. For the first time, the galaxy truly saw what humans were capable of. He whispered to himself, "We have won this battle, but the war for the future of the galaxy is ongoing. Humans will lead, not through fear or force alone, but through courage, intelligence, and the willingness to act when others hesitate. And the galaxy will never forget that." The stars stretched endlessly before him, a reminder of both danger and opportunity. Humanity had taken its first decisive steps beyond the Council chamber and beyond the Outer Rim. The Zerthians had been challenged. Allies had been inspired. And the galaxy had been changed. Elias smiled faintly. Humanity's story was only beginning, but one truth was already clear. When the galaxy faced darkness, humans would stand, act, and protect what was right. That was the true measure of their strength. and the galaxy would remember it forever. The fleet continued its patrols, secure in the knowledge that humans had turned courage and ingenuity into action. The Outer Rim was safe for now, but more importantly, the galaxy now knew that humanity was a species capable of reshaping events, protecting life and leading with unwavering moral clarity. And so, humanity's journey among the stars had only just begun. The Ambassador Kale Dre looked out from the observation deck of the massive transport ship as it approached the Galactic Council Station. The station hung like a jewel in space, massive and glittering, a hub where countless civilizations came together to discuss the affairs of the galaxy. Ships of all shapes and sizes moved around it, each design reflecting the nature of the species that built it. Some were elegant and smooth, others angular and mechanical, and a few resembled living organisms drifting through the void. Kale felt a mix of awe and determination. Humanity had only recently joined interstellar politics, yet here he was, about to enter a chamber where the galaxy's most powerful and ancient species met. He straightened his suit, adjusting the insignia of Earth on his chest. Compared to the grand displays of other delegates' species, humans might seem small, fragile, and insignificant. But Kale knew better. Humanity was resourceful, adaptable, and full of unexpected potential. The transport docked smoothly and Kale stepped onto the station. The halls were vast, their walls shimmering with energy and light. Alien attendants, some towering over him, some floating without any visible means, guided delegates to the main council chamber. Kale moved with calm confidence, noting how the aliens glanced at him with curiosity, or sometimes barely concealed amusement. Humans were still considered primitive by most of the older civilizations. When Kale entered the council chamber, he paused. The room was larger than any building on Earth, circular with tiered seating that rose like steps toward a glowing ceiling. A massive holographic star map rotated slowly in the center, displaying countless systems, planets, and fleets. Alien delegates filled the seats, some translucent, showing inner organs pulsating, others armored in metallic shells, some with multiple limbs, eyes, or strange appendages. The sheer diversity of life was overwhelming. Ambassador Dre, a calm voice said beside him. Kale turned to see a small insect-like attendant bowing slightly. "Your seat is ready. The session will begin shortly." Kale nodded politely. He walked to his seat, which was placed near the bottom of the hierarchy close to other newcomers. Humans were not yet trusted or respected, and their voice carried little weight. But Kale did not mind. He had a plan, and he knew that underestimation could be a powerful advantage. As the session began, the chamber filled with a low hum of discussion. Representatives debated trade agreements, territorial disputes, and resource allocation. Kale observed silently, listening. Some of the more powerful species spoke with authority and arrogance, dismissing concerns raised by smaller or newer civilizations. One large reptilian delegate spoke at length about how new species should follow established rules, almost as if the galaxy belonged to the old and strong. Kale noted the disdain in their tone. It was subtle, but humans were clearly seen as irrelevant. He allowed himself a quiet smile. If the galaxy underestimated humanity, that gave him room to maneuver. Kale had spent years preparing for this moment. Every conversation, every negotiation, every small victory on Earth had been a step toward proving humanity could survive and thrive among the stars. A sudden hush fell over the chamber as a new voice spoke. The Vrexians, a warlike species with jagged exoskeletons and sharp mandibles, announced their intentions to annex parts of space claimed by humans. Their words were blunt, even insulting. They described humans as primitive and unworthy of interstellar respect. Some delegates nodded in agreement, others remained silent, weighing their options carefully. Kale felt a spark of anger, but he controlled it. Showing fear or rage here would be dangerous. Instead, he studied the Vrexians' projection of fleet movements and resources. The humans had little military strength compared to the vast fleets of the Vrexians. But humans had ingenuity, creativity, and determination, qualities no other species seemed to fully appreciate. During the break, Kale walked through the council halls, noting the expressions of other delegates. Many were confident, some arrogant, a few curious. One small delegation of a jelly-like species seemed to study him with genuine interest, whispering among themselves. Kale approached, offering a polite nod. "You are human," one of them said. its voice a soft vibration that resonated in the air. "You seem different," Kale smiled. "Humans are known for being unpredictable," he replied. "Sometimes that is a problem. Sometimes it is an advantage." The jelly-like delegate seemed to consider this carefully. "We will watch," it said. "Unpredictable species can either disrupt or transform." Kale nodded and moved on. Unpredictability was humanity's greatest weapon. The galaxy's rules were built by ancient species who relied on strength, tradition, and predictability. Humans could change that. When the session resumed, the discussion became heated. Delegates argued over borders, resources, and trade routes. The Vrexians continued their threats, confident that no newcomer could resist them. Kale listened carefully, taking mental notes of weaknesses in their arguments, inconsistencies in their fleets, and opportunities to leverage alliances, or at least neutralize opposition. Kale finally stood when his turn came to speak. His voice was calm, steady, carrying across the chamber. "Esteemed members of the Galactic Council," he began, "humanity has observed the debates of this council for some time. We have watched your arguments, your conflicts, and your decisions. We are new to this stage, and yet we have something to offer. Humanity will not be ignored." A ripple of surprise ran through the chamber. Many delegates leaned forward, curious. Some whispered among themselves. Humans rarely spoke boldly in council meetings. Most were quiet observers. Kale continued. "We do not claim to be the strongest species here nor the most advanced, but we are resourceful, we are adaptable, and we have survived challenges that others might consider impossible." He paused, letting the words sink in. Kale had studied every species here, noting their strengths, their pride, and their weaknesses. Humans may have been underestimated, but underestimation could be used to humanity's advantage. Kyle concluded, "We are committed to peace, to diplomacy, and to cooperation. But we will not allow our home to be threatened, nor our people to be dismissed. Humanity is watching, and we are prepared to act if necessary." Some delegates nodded, impressed by his courage. Others sneered, dismissing his words. The Vrexians in particular clicked their mandibles in apparent irritation, but Kale noticed subtle shifts, whispers, exchanges, small looks of concern. Even the strongest, most confident species felt a twinge of uncertainty. After the session ended, Kyle returned to the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly before him. He knew this was only the beginning. Humanity's voice had been heard, and that was the first victory. But the challenges ahead were immense. Kyle reflected on Earth, on the people who had sent him here, and on the small, fragile blue planet that would soon become the center of galactic attention. Humans were few, their fleets limited, and their technology still growing. But Kale believed in humanity's greatest strength, their mind, their spirit, and their unwillingness to surrender. As the transport ship prepared to dock for the next round of council sessions, Kale thought quietly, almost to himself, "They may see us as small, they may see us as weak, but they have yet to understand what humans can do when they are pushed to survive, and when they refuse to be ignored." The stars outside the window seemed to shimmer with possibilities. The galaxy was vast, full of wonders and dangers alike. Kale knew that humanity's journey was just beginning, and that soon, the entire council would have to reckon with a new, unexpected force. And so the human diplomat prepared to step into the arena of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. Determined to make Earth's voice heard, the council may have doubted them, but Kale had no doubt. Humanity would not be overlooked, and the story of Earth was about to change forever. The council chamber was alive with tension. Aliens of all shapes and sizes floated, strode, or hovered in their places, their conversations buzzing like a swarm of insects. Holographic displays rotated slowly above the center of the room, showing trade routes, territories, and fleets scattered across the galaxy. Ambassador Kale Dre observed quietly, his human eyes scanning every detail. Each species had its own customs, its own ways of communicating, its own ways of showing dominance. But one thing was clear. Many in the council saw humans as insignificant. Kale's calm presence was a stark contrast to the restless energy around him. Some delegates whispered, pointing at him with multiple limbs, eyes, or sensory tendrils. Humans were still newcomers, barely trusted, and Kale knew he had to tread carefully. But he also knew that diplomacy alone might not be enough to protect Earth. The session resumed, and a chilling announcement echoed through the chamber. A large, jagged alien stepped forward. It was a Vrexian delegate, its exoskeleton glinting in the soft council light, its mandibles clicking rhythmically. "We have observed this system," the Vrexian said, its voice harsh and resonant. "The species known as humans occupies a small and primitive world. Yet we find their location of interest. Therefore, the Vrexian collective declares our intention to annex the Sol system." A murmur spread across the chamber. Kyle's heart tightened, but he maintained a neutral expression. The threat was direct, clear, and alarming. Annexation of Earth would mean the end of humanity's independence. Many delegates reacted with indifference or silent nods. Some species had long ago accepted the Vrexians as a dominant power. Others weighed the political consequences, their faces unreadable. Kyle realized quickly that most species had no intention of defending humans. The galaxy rewarded strength and tradition, not courage or potential. Kyle rose slightly in his chair, capturing the attention of a few nearby delegates. "We are aware of the Vrexian collective," he said calmly, "and we understand their intentions. But humanity does not intend to yield. We will protect our home and our people." Some delegates blinked in surprise. Humans rarely spoke so boldly. The Vrexian clicked its mandibles in irritation. "Bold words for a species without power," it said. "You're insignificant. We do not fear you." Kale did not respond further. He knew words alone would not deter them. Humans had to act in ways the Vrexians would not expect. After the council session, Kyle moved to a secure observation room. Holographic screens displayed the Vrexian fleets in detail. Hundreds of massive warships, heavily armed and organized. Compared to them, the human fleet was tiny, scattered, and technologically behind in many ways. But Kale saw opportunity. He noted gaps in formation, supply vulnerabilities, and patterns that could be exploited. He turned to his aide, a young human named Lyra Mays, who had been trained in tactical analysis. "They think they are unbeatable," Kale said. "But we are human. That means we are unpredictable. That is our advantage. We study, we adapt, and we find ways that others do not see." Lyra nodded, her eyes reflecting both fear and determination. "But Ambassador, their fleets are massive. How can we even begin to resist them?" Kale smiled faintly. "Not by fighting them head-on, not yet. First, we gather intelligence, learn their weaknesses, and prepare. When the time comes, we strike in ways they cannot anticipate." Meanwhile, whispers in the council continued. Some delegates expressed concern about the Vrexians' aggression. Others criticized Kale's bold statements. "The humans are foolish," one elder said, its translucent form pulsing as it spoke. "They cannot survive against a species like the Vrexians." Kale ignored the criticism. He had faced doubt before on Earth in moments when humanity was underestimated. Humans had survived catastrophes, adapted to hostile environments, and created solutions when none seemed possible. That same ingenuity would now be tested on a galactic scale. The next day, Kyle requested private sessions with a few species who had shown curiosity rather than disdain. Among them was a small gelatinous race that communicated through vibrations and color changes. Kale spoke to them quietly, explaining humanity's perspective. "We do not wish for conflict," he said, "but we will not surrender. If the galaxy expects humans to be weak, they are in for a surprise." The jelly-like delegate seemed intrigued. Its colors shifted rapidly as it responded. "Your species has spirit. Few have this courage at the council. Observe carefully. Unpredictable species can influence outcomes beyond their size." Kale nodded. "Then we will make sure we are ready." Back in the secure chamber, Kale worked with Lyra and other aides to analyze Vrexian strategy. They studied ship types, energy patterns, supply lines, and historical battle tactics. Every piece of data was critical. Humans had fewer resources, but they had imagination, adaptability, and determination. Kale also focused on the human fleet. While small, it had the advantage of modular ships and flexible command structures. They could adapt quickly, change tactics mid-battle, and use stealth and deception in ways larger fleets could not. Kale called it humanity's shadow advantage. That night, Kale reviewed intelligence reports alone. The Vrexians were confident, arrogant, and predictable in many ways. If humans moved wisely, they could exploit that predictability. Kale's mind raced with strategies, small skirmishes to test enemy defenses, tactical diversions, and experimental technologies that the Vrexians could not anticipate. He thought about Earth, the small planet of blue and green, full of life, home to billions who trusted humanity to survive. Kale felt the weight of responsibility, but also the thrill of challenge. Humanity had never faced anything like this before, and yet he was certain of one thing: humans could not be crushed by fear, size, or intimidation alone. The next council session brought a new surprise. A few minor species, previously silent, began to question the Vrexians' aggressive claims. "Is it right," asked one, "to assume that a new species has no right to defend its home?" The chamber buzzed with debate. Kale saw a small window of opportunity. Humanity had few allies, but influence could be built. Allies were not just those with power, they were those with fairness, curiosity, or even self-interest in maintaining balance. During a break, Kale met Lyra on the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly, silent witnesses to the events unfolding. "They are preparing for conflict," Lyra said softly. "The Vrexians will not stop," Hale nodded. "No, they won't, but that does not mean humans will surrender. Remember, we do not have to be the biggest or the strongest. We have to be smart, fast, and unpredictable." They watched as Vrexian ships moved in formation, their patterns precise and calculated. Kale studied every movement, committing details to memory. Humanity's survival depended on understanding the enemy, as much as protecting their own fleet. As the council continued, Kale realized something critical. Diplomacy alone would not be enough to secure Earth's safety. Words and agreements were fragile, easily broken by those who sought power. Humans had to be ready to act, and to show the galaxy that underestimation could be dangerous. By the end of the day, Kale made a private announcement to his aides. "Prepare the fleet. Gather intelligence. Run simulations. Humanity will not beg for its place. If war comes, we will meet it with all the skill and courage we have, and we will survive." That night, Kale walked alone along the observation deck. The stars glittered, cold and beautiful. He thought of Earth, of the people who slept unaware of the threats looming across light years. He thought of humanity's history of survival, of rising above challenges that seemed impossible. And he felt a quiet, burning certainty. The galaxy had underestimated humans for the last time, and when the Vrexians made their first move, they would discover that humans were not just small, fragile creatures, they were clever, determined, and unyielding. Humanity was ready to defend its home, and no force in the galaxy would make them surrender without a fight. Kale Dre stood silently, letting the hum of the council and the sparkle of the distant stars fill him with resolve. Humanity was about to prove that courage, strategy, and adaptability could rival any fleet, any power, and any species. The threat was real. The danger was immense. But humanity had an advantage no one else had: the spirit to survive and the will to fight. And the galaxy had yet to see the full measure of it.